So, hello, this is Raymond Jetson, and I am absolutely thrilled to welcome you to our first Half My Age highlight. And just to set the framing for you, one of the just core values of my life and my work and what we want to build with this website is the importance of intergenerational relationship, work, and recognizing the power that resides both in the community of the elders and in the generations that are coming behind us. And so one of the things that I want to do is on a regular basis to highlight just amazing people who are give or take a couple of years here and there, half my age. And I am absolutely thrilled to have my first conversation with Miss Sevetri Wilson, someone who is at or near the top of my shiro list whenever I sit and write it. Hello, Savitri. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm
I'm number one. I'm first. Oh my gosh, no
yes,
pressure, but I love that.
you are, and I thank you for making yourself available to share this time with us. And so, kind of just this really broad question that I'd like to ask. And so, what is your current work? How would you answer that question?
So my current work definitely aligns to, I would say, my life's work and what has been my life's work to date. And that is now utilizing technology to help mobilize and support communities and directly working with nonprofit organizations and then those who deploy capital. So generally grant makers, government, cities, private foundations, and corporations. And so when I first started out, as you well know, I was helping nonprofits via a consultancy lens. And as I began to grow and see how technology was like just disrupting everything, I began to seek out like how could I utilize technology to in our space to disrupt the way that we do work and to actually help communities move forward. And so, yeah, that's how I would kind of describe the work that I'm doing now, just through a technology lens.
And what is the vehicle that you are doing that work through now?
Yeah, so Resilia. When we met, I was running fully Solid Ground Innovations, which still exists today, which is more of a strategic communications and nonprofit management company. Resilia is a SaaS technology platform working across a double-sided market. And so, as I mentioned, one side we support nonprofit organizations, and then on the other side, grant makers.
And so, and as someone who benefited from the consultancy lens at Solid Ground Innovation, as we sought to lift my current work, Metromorphosis, off the ground, uh, and now as a proud and excited client of Resilia, I just want to commend you for the way that you are empowering organizations to make a difference in communities. Um, in what way, Savitri, has the wisdom of the elders impacted your journey?
Oh my goodness, so many different ways. I believe that I definitely am just a sponge of information and knowledge. And I always feel that I soak up what I need and I try to push out anything that I don't. But it's with what I have soaked up from those who I would consider my elders that has allowed me to be as successful as I have become. And that's primarily from like listening to people tell me about their good fortunes, but even more so about their mistakes, so that I have the opportunity to not repeat some of those same mistakes in my own journey. And so that's one thing that I will say about myself. I am definitely someone who listens to every word, particularly when it's coming from an elder.
And so just being so sensitive to not only the world of your work, uh, but the state of our communities, the state of this country. Um, what do you see as the importance or the value of making certain that we have these intergenerational connections that are real and vibrant in our communities?
I think it's important. like I'm sitting in New Orleans now, and we talk a lot about culture bearers, right? And so those who bear like the culture, and how do we continue to keep this culture going and flowing and vibrant, right? When I think about that correlation to elders, I think about it the same way. And so when we hear someone who has passed away due to age, oftentimes people say, oh, it feels like a library burned down today, right? It's because like the knowledge and everything that that person had and then that they were sharing with others no longer is there. But it's like, how can we retain that? How can we pass that down to like my generation? And how can we utilize the information and knowledge that we gain to then pass that down? And that continues that format of community building, that format of like how do we build communities, how do we keep our communities vibrant, how do we teach our children. It truly is, it's generational pass down from our elders to us. Then once we become elders, we have to be mindful of how we pass that down, and so on and so forth.
And so one of the things that I would certainly urge, and you and I have talked, is that you don't have to wait until you reach that elderhood to pass it down. And so uh, in what ways are you just kind of intentionally looking at those generations that are coming behind you?
Oh man, so many ways. When we use the word elder, I'm like, okay, I'm not an elder yet, but
No,
I do
you're
feel
far from it, my dear friend.
but I don't know what we call ourselves who are passing it forward to like the next generations. But I have been thoughtful about the way I do that, whether that is through, for example, creating like an endowment at LSU, my alma mater, in the name of my mother, who is an elder, right? But then utilizing those scholarships to go to students who were like myself, right, coming to LSU for the first time, first generation college student. I went to school on a full academic and Pell Grant, so that tells you how much my mom didn't make. And so I think of things like that. And then even yesterday, I was doing a course at Southern University inside of the Valdry Center, which is their School of Philanthropy. And I was thinking, and I was taking a tour of the Valdry Center. I'm not sure if you had an opportunity to
I
visit it
have.
yet, but it's like a beautiful building. And I talked to Al about, ways that I could help further support the work there, and also, become a donor. And so I think about things like that. I'm very intentional about setting time aside on my calendar to speak with like young founders and entrepreneurs who are coming up, to just tell them, give them any insights or information that I may have, or connect them in ways that I think will be fruitful, particularly in tech, because there's just not a lot of us in tech. And so I'm very thoughtful about how I pay it forward, just because I feel that people paid it forward, people opened the door for me to enter, and I have to do the same.
Yeah. And so and I commend you for that. You also have just within the Resilia community some really amazing young people who are your colleagues in the work, and I truly treasure that every time I have an opportunity to experience it. And so one of the things that I want to make just a core part of these conversations is this whole notion of difference making and changing the world. And so if you were to say one thing to people uh, just about making a difference in the world that we have around us, what would you say?
Some things that I constantly go back to is what how do you feel when you get up in the morning, right? And do you feel good about the work that you're doing? How is your energy, how is your spirit as you like move through the world? Because I think that that is so important, to how you show up in other people's lives, because if
Mm,
you're not showing up for yourself, then it's so hard to show up for other people. But if you're feeling good about the things around you, the work that you're doing, it allows you to show up much more positively and much more effectively in other people's lives, right? Particularly, I think going through this journey, And I feel like we just face like more no's, more doors that are closed in our face that it could like jade us. And in that we can pass that energy on to other people, right? And think that there's not enough room at the table for all of us, or think that, you know, you can't share information or knowledge, or you have to like withhold something. And so I would definitely tell people to just like hone in on those key characteristics that, you know, really make you who you are, and like what is your purpose and why, and then how can you attach other people to that, right? And I'm a true believer of like this idea that we particularly have to pull as we climb. Some people get to climb all the way to the top and then like, all right, I made it to the top. I have all this money and these riches and access and resources. Now let me look back down and see who I can help. I think our communities, we don't have that luxury to spend years and decades of climbing, and then looking back, because we look back and the gap of wealth, the gap of resources is so far and so disproportionate that it's harder to pull people up by the time you get there. And so we have to really pull as we climb. And yes, that's definitely a much heavier weight than just looking out for yourself and climbing to the top and then turning around and look back. But that's something that I think about when I think about legacy, and when I think just about my daily walk of how I can be more helpful, as well as give back in ways that don't necessarily have to be monetarily. So yeah, that's kind of like some of my thoughts around that.
So, and absolutely profound. I do want to lift up a couple of, well, three things, namely, one, I always share with folks that so very often intergenerational relationships are reciprocal learning opportunities. There's not this, you know, the elder sitting on high, passing down wisdom in a unidirectional way. That there's much that can be learned. And certainly I encourage folks to always to be eternal learners. That's certainly my goal in life. But this conversation with you and that your response to that last question just touched me in two really important ways. One is this notion. So very often when we think about changing the world, the initial inclination is to look out there at the world. But you're just calling us to look at self first and to recognize the energy and the spirit that we move through the world with. Is just a powerful prompt for me. But then secondly, I will forever add to my list of mantras that I repeat frequently, the need to pull as we climb. Because that is just a powerful imagery and a very powerful truth. And so uh, thank you for helping to educate the elder. I do appreciate it. Savitra, thank you so much for making time for this conversation. I sincerely, when I thought of this moment, you had to be first, because I admire and appreciate the work that you do and the way that you do it. And so thank you for making time for this. I wish you the best with Resilia and all of the other ways that I know that you will make a difference in the world. So thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being you, and for everything that you've done in the community and outside of the community to help others continue to progress, because I think that our journeys are definitely very intertwined, and a lot of my successes have come directly from the work that we've done together. So thank you.
Thank you. And so keep an eye on this space. We'll be updating it periodically with another wonderful person who, give or take a year here and there, is half my age. Thank you.